What's up, friends? Here we are back. It is Semi-Pro Football Gridiron Rants. Yours truly, Big Hank here. My man, Kenny Anderson over there. What's happening, man? How are you doing? How was your Memorial Weekend, buddy? We kind of took it off a little bit.
We did. I can't complain. Down here in Texas, got a couple buddies. We had a little cookout, had a little pool time, got a nice little sunburn with my my light skin here, and enjoyed some time in the pool. How about you?
Yeah, it must be. We didn't do really anything. We kind of did yard work. We worked on some fence stuff. We did that whole adulting thing.
Oh yeah, that's a good. We all go through that stages, and just so people watching, the listeners probably aren't going to see this, but people watching, Hantke's in the middle of a storm right now, so we may have a little technical difficulty on one side here, but we're going to do our best to get through this. So you did some adulting. You did yard work.
That
was kids to work too.
They actually, they did a little bit of stuff. Not too much. I mean, you're only going to get so much out of them, but they did go over to the grandparents and they helped them move a couple yards of mulch the other day. So I was proud of them for that.
That a baby, put them to work. While we're on it, this wasn't even on our agenda, but I just wanted, you got your shirt on, so it made me want to ask. Now that Cuomo's kind of gone stage 2, and then he backed it up today, he's kind of taking his word back. But it looks like CNY he might allow stage 2. So what's that for 315 Strong right now, as far as when can you all get back in the gym, and what are some precautions you guys have to take?
As far as training, it's probably going to be stage 4 when we get back to actual group training and all that kind of stuff. Gotcha. I'll be honest with you, the gym we're at will probably have to have face masks with us. Wearing them in a gym, we all know that that's not going to happen, right? We wipe our stuff down when we're done. Other than that, I mean, what can you really do in a gym? Right. Especially the gym that we train at, you're not going to be doing much of anything like that. So like disinfecting every day, you know what I mean? Like we'll wipe everything down. We have disinfectant and all that. We wipe it down, but outside of that, I mean, let's be honest, like we've probably touched worse things.
Yeah. I mean, most of the gyms I worked out in, I tried the purple and yellow one, where you're not allowed to grunt and groan. And I mean, let's be honest, I get that. But if you're training, especially you being in a strongman competition, you're going to grunt and groan. You're probably going to drop a few F-bombs.
A little bit.
You're probably going to scream and yell. So I would imagine that the gym you're in, sanitation, not that it's slummy, but you're going to wipe everything down, but it's not the top priority. You guys are there to get work in.
Correct. It's as clean as it's going to be, and probably as clean as it needs to be. Totally honest with you.
There you go.
So, dude, you're obviously down in Texas right now, man. And I heard they're going to be opening Texas sports back up at 25% capacity, man. Give me a little bit on that, brother.
Yeah. So the governor made an announcement this week that he's going to allow sports fans back into the stadium. So I'm on the TexasTribune.com, and it says Texas sports fans will soon be allowed to attend outdoor pro games, according to Governor Greg Abbott. Starting Friday, that would be today, the day of the filming here, most Texas counties will be able to host in-person spectators for outdoor sporting events and venues, but occupancy will be limited to 25%. So
you're looking at probably every 6 seat or something like that.
Yeah. I almost want to go to an event just to see how they do it. Now at 25%, are they going to say, okay, let's say it's Jerry World, right? They hold 100,000 people. So you can put 25,000 people in there. That's a hell of a lot of people.
So and you're still making some kind of money, right?
Right. And are they going to make them sit every 4th seat, or is it 25,000 people sit where the hell you want? I mean, what's the deal? So that's that's going to be an interesting thing to see. Like I said, I may just find an event just to see what the hell it looks like. Take a few pictures. And if I can do that, guys, I'll put some pictures up. I'll put some pictures up on our YouTube channel, and we can discuss.
It'll be interesting just to see. I think a lot of people will go back to games. I hope they don't make you wear a mask, because I think that's just dumb. I think the mask thing is just dumb in general, but that's just me.
Right.
But then again, remember, it's not about us. It's about the other people.
Right.
Anyway, that's a story for another day.
Texas has been, and I know this is a shock to those of you listening, Texas has been a little more
lenient.
Let me say progressive, I guess. Yeah.
Okay.
Or lenient.
All right.
Where I go to the auctions and I don't have to wear a mask. One auction says it's your choice.
Right.
Another
It should
auction,
be.
right? Another auction says you have to, but only while the sale's going on. So if you're going to go there,
Right.
earlier and do a preview, you don't have to wear a mask. And I
Gotcha.
do most of my bidding online, so I'm not wearing a mask. And then the other two auctions I go to, there's nothing. There's no requirement. Now there's one which is a huge auction around the country. They have a location here in Dallas. They're shut down preview. They're shut down. You can't bid. Everything's online, so you can't go in person at all. So we have the extreme of where it's, hey, do whatever the hell you want. And then we have the other place, which is a lot bigger. It's the largest auction house in the country, if not the world, says we're shutting it down. We're not even going to allow previewing. So Texas is kind of all over the place, but most places we go, like I even go to the grocery store, maybe 25% of the people have a mask on. Now all the employees do, but actual patrons, I bet you it's even less than 25%. It might be closer to 15 or 10. So
yeah, I just think I think every state should be like that. It should be a choice. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But I don't know. It is what it is. But at least they're getting back to sports. I think that's the key. And the biggest key is not just pro sports. We need to see kids get back to playing sports right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the poor kids got to be going nuts, right? I was just reading a couple of things on my Facebook about some of my friends and relatives that have children that are missing their proms, and they're missing their dinner dances, and they're missing their graduations, and that kind of sucks when you think back. What are some of the memories we probably all have, or what did we do on prom night? What did we do on your senior prom night, or we called it a dinner dance? What did you do on a dinner dance night? What was your last day of school like? What was your graduation like? What was and these kids aren't going to have had that story, or they're going to have the story where they're like,
we're just doing it.
We're Corona kids, baby.
Yeah, right. Right.
So who knows? It's just an interesting time. I feel bad for the kids that are.
Yeah, wild, because a lot of kids were born during 9/11.
Right.
So you know what I mean. They kind of went through that, and now they're going through this. So
right.
It's an interesting and wild time, and I think by the end of summer, I think a lot of things are going to be back just to kind of sort of normal. I know that people say the new normal. I don't like that word. I think it's stupid.
Term. I hate that term.
Yeah, I think a lot of people will be back to sort of normal. And let's be totally honest with you. When football, NFL comes back, you're going to see people like, I don't care. I'm going to games. It's going to happen.
Yeah, so I caught a tail end of it, and it was probably on one of my Fox shows, because I watch a lot of Fox Sports, and they were talking about how, listen, there's fans whose season tickets are their world, and they ain't missing it for shit. They're not missing an NFL game for nobody. They've missed weddings, they've missed anniversaries, they've missed birthdays. Their season ticket is their life, and they're not going to miss it. So, and I think by then, I mean, the NFL is already, moving in that direction. They already said we're having a full season.
Right.
It's just a matter of
Yep.
Of what, and then also football wise, the SEC pretty much said, screw you, we're doing what we want. We're the largest.
Right.
We're the largest college group here, so we're gonna start in September like we always do. We're gonna play our games, and we're going to go from there, So I think at some point sports had to step in and say, bullshit, we're calling bullshit. That's, I mean, when we look back, part of America, we live, breathe, and eat sports, right? Most people,
absolutely.
Most people are sports related in some fashion or another. Not, many aren't as crazy as you and I are, and start teams or start, strongman gyms or start crazy podcasts, during a pandemic. But, but it's, whether it's the person themselves or even people that I know that were maybe musically inclined in high school, their kids are now athletes.
Right.
So one way or another, the sport is, in being involved in lots of people's worlds. So I think it's great that sports is stepping up and saying, even baseball, they're talking about July, but they're talking about the bullshit about the money.
Right.
It's beyond the money at this point. Just make an agreement, let them play their 82 games or whatever the case may be, whatever they're going to do. And get some
just go
back. Yeah.
Yeah. Just go. I mean, you see NASCAR made it work the last couple of weeks with no fans. You know what I mean? And races were decent. You know what I mean? So, and UFC made it work with no fans. So do what you got to do. Let's just play, right?
Absolutely.
So in the world of strongman right now, we have a very interesting time going on with one Hafthor Bjornsson and one Eddie Hall, and now a boxing match. And then some stuff came out about Thor cheating and at World's Strongest Man in 2017, 2016. So it's 2017. It's a wild ride in the world of strongman right now, but Thor has come out and said he's retiring on his Twitch channel, but retiring from Giants Live, who runs World's Strongest Man, and doing anything there. So we'll still see him compete in Arnold's. I think he's going to take a year off and focus on this boxing match, which he's getting paid big for. So, but yeah, I think it's funny to see him announce his quote unquote retirement. You know what I mean? When it really isn't a retirement. You know what I mean?
Yeah, still compete. It's like hey, I'm going to retire from football, but I'm only going to play in the playoff. I'm only playing in the playoffs. If the team makes it to the playoffs in the Super Bowl, I'm in. But
I'm in.
I'm not playing the regular season. So, it's crazy. Go ahead.
Do you think, like, in a good analogy is that with the football thing, what do you think just on the whole thing in general? I mean, when a guy goes on a public platform like that and doesn't really have a speech prepared, just goes and spouts off, does it make him look worse?
Well, I don't have a problem. I would prefer an athlete to be honest with himself and go on and rant, which is part of why we called this rant. Or I wanted this to be a pretty open forum. So I don't have a problem with him ranting. But if it was a spur of the moment, fuck you, I'm retiring because you pissed me off, then he should come back. He should come back and say, listen, you got me fired up. I'm not retiring. I'm going to break my own record legally in front of you. And I'm going to whoop your ass in the ring. That's what I would do. Now aside of me, as we're sitting here talking, I'm thinking, what if this is a WWE style? What if they're setting the stage? What if this is all kind of staged? They're kind of build the anticipation.
They say it's not.
Of the boxing.
Yeah. They say it's not, but there is some of that WWE type, stuff going on there. Especially the way it came out at the end of him hitting that 501, you know what I mean?
Right.
So, it's funny. I don't know. It's good to me. It's good for the sport because now you have mainstream media covering it all over the place, right?
Bingo. That's why, as we're sitting here talking, I'm saying, well, wait a minute. What if they decided, listen, we know we've got Europe on lockdown because Europe is crazy, as we talked about in episode 1 when it comes to strongman. But America, you said, they might get in a huge event, they might get 10,000 people. Where in Europe, they get 100,000 or something. So
it's not big. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe it's a way to, pay-per-view money is huge in the States. So maybe it's all part of now the only thing that makes me think that maybe it's not is the fact that there was a documentary made, right? From back in what would you say it was 16 or 17, whatever the event was, a gentleman made a documentary, and that's why Thor flipped out. Is in the documentary, they're basically saying he cheated, and he lost by a point.
What I mean,
right? He lost.
The double dip is funny because it's literally here and it's that. That's what the double dip is. You know what I mean?
But what I don't understand is they have judges for every event. So if the judge allowed it, it's not cheating.
He didn't allow it. He didn't allow it.
So he lost.
He no-repped him, and then Thor argued the fact, and it turned into a big brouhaha. Gotcha. So it's just funny to me. To me, no matter what, like you said, it's good for the sport. It gets eyes on the sport, and they're going to fight in Vegas, which is like the mecca of the fight life. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I'm gonna make a prediction here.
Go ahead, buddy.
I'm gonna go out on a limb. More drama to follow.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
I think
as we head in now to our. What were you saying?
I was just gonna say. I just think it's now that you mentioned it was in Vegas, I think it's part of the hype train.
Probably. There's no doubt about it. Now we head into our semi-pro end of things, because that's the world that we both came out So the Empire Football League, which both of us are very well implanted and have been for a lot of our career, right?
Yep.
They have gone on record saying that they are canceling their season. And then the other state, New York State League, the NFA, has said that they don't know what they're going to do yet. But you have some inside info that maybe I don't have.
Yeah. So I've coached. There was another league called NYAFL. So within that league, I met some other owners that are still, going about. So
still out there.
Yep. So let's start with the Empire Football League first. They, if you go to their website, empirefootballleague.com, it states 2020 Empire Football League season canceled. The Empire Football League met recently to establish plans for the 2020 season because of the current impacts of COVID-19 pandemic. After review of the recent released reopening plans and various federal, state, and local government guidelines, we've concluded that we will have to cancel the 2020 EFL season. It goes on. It goes on to basically say that they're making it for, it's about the players, it's about the coaches, and it's about the fans. So, and then it says the Empire Football League wishes to thank all our players, coaches, staff, sponsors, and fans for your support and understanding during this time. We plan to see you back in 2021. So,
Semi-Pro has fans, Kenny? I didn't know we had fans.
Watertown does.
Well, that's true. All right, one team out of all the damn places.
Yeah. So here's the thing, and this is, as soon as I read this online, because it first came up to me, a Watertown paper did an article on it and it mentioned it too. So first thing I thought was, oh shit, are the two leagues going to be in jeopardy? Now, the thing around the EFL is it's getting close to 50 years old.
Well, they already took last year off though, because they had no teams.
Was so that last year or the year before?
Yeah, no, it was last year. So they had no teams. So
yeah, so it's again. I thought it was a great league. I took the team when I took over ownership of the Shock. We took them from the NAFL and we took them to, which was a national. We covered a bigger area, and we and several other teams combined that were in New York decided we wanted to join the EFL because of its tradition. So we came in and love the league, love the owners in the league. The commissioner is one of the best dudes you'll ever meet. He's played at this level. He's a Hall of Famer, not only semi-pro Hall of Famer. So great dude, knows what he's doing. I hope the league sticks around, man. It's a great league, and like I said, they got a lot of great owners in there, a lot of great athletes. So hopefully that league, the Empire Football League, can rebound in 21. That's their plan to begin.
Here's my question though, because I know that you have ties to that league. I don't have as many ties to that league as you do. Mm-hmm. Do you think it gets to a point that the old guard type thought process, especially in that league, because a lot of people think that way,
right,
is holding that league up from really being, because at one point it should have been the League of Leagues, right? At least to me. And I didn't play I played in the NYAFL almost my entire career until we played. I played with you in the EFL, and then going to meetings and meeting everybody and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
But do you think like they need to just kind of get some young blood up in the commissioner room in that league?
They may. It may. The problem is you still got that watering down, which we've talked about in both 1 and 2. So episodes 1 and 2. So that happens. And we got to take a break here soon and get to our interview for the day. But one thing I want to touch on is on the other league, the NFA. I did talk to an owner there who will be doing an interview with us in the near future here. He says that they are currently going to play, at least is what they're debating over. And if they don't play, there's a plan B where several of the teams may have a bootleg season and kind of have like a tournament. So they still want to play because, they've paid, a lot of these teams had to have the stadiums reserved, and again, dudes want to play ball, football players want to play football. And some of these dudes are going to be their last year, so they're going to want to play. So, so on that note, I hope NFA plays and, I hope the EFL is back next year, which by the sounds of it, they should be. And, like I said, both are great leagues, both have great owners and hell of a lot of players in there. So So I'll leave it at that. And as we learn more going in the future, I'm sure, we'll talk about that as well.
All right, so here we are back on Semi-Pro Football Gridiron Rant. Join us now is the QB1, I guess we could call him that. But Kenny, I wanted just to bring you back right now.
Sure.
Because not only did we and Brez play together, me and Brez have known each other since I was probably like 10,
I was going to say,
12 years old.
Did you guys play in Corcoran together? I know you went to the same school,
No.
but didn't play in the same
No,
years.
Brez was a couple years in front of me.
Okay.
Basically, so this is kind of how it went down. Brez and those guys won the 92 title, Section 3? 91.
Yeah.
So these guys were all way before, the better team came around.
Here we go. Here we go.
We're not going to start that again. There's many things.
Yeah, no, we're not. No,
about that.
Oh my God. But yeah, back in the 90, 91, Brez used to pick up I think Manu was your center, maybe.
Manu
his
played
girlfriend
guard.
lived next door to me and guard, and they would come and and Brez knows my sister and everything like that, and then know his family. But so that's taking it back. That's how long? About 30 years there, pal.
Yeah.
30 years.
Is that all?
That's wild,
That's
right?
awesome.
Yeah. Just 30 years.
A few decades.
But for those that don't know, Brez not only played at New Hampshire, right? Got some time in there. New England Patriots got some time in camp there. Played for the Tampa Bay Storm, if I'm not mistaken on that. Played for the Syracuse Storm as well in semi-pro way back. I think we played one game together on that team. It was like an all-star team. Well, probably a game we shouldn't have lost, but when you have, 30 guys that never played together all of a sudden coming to play together, it doesn't usually go very well, right?
Yeah, playoff game with one practice against I think it was the Central PA Piranha or something like that.
Yeah,
Hazelton,
something like that. Oh my God!
Yeah,
and then having an opportunity to play with Brez through the Express years and national title and all those good things, and then the first year with the Shock. So welcome.
So wait a
to the
minute, wait a minute,
program,
wait a
my
minute,
friend.
wait a minute.
There's your intro.
Real quick. So this is 2 weeks in a row that I'm the odd man out. You two have national titles. You two last week had that. I'm such a loser.
Who was on last week?
One of my coaching mentors. He's he's from Colorado. His name's David Wolf Parker. He won 2 nationals with
Nice.
a team out there. So yeah.
And we probably should have won more than one national championship. Let's be totally honest, but we couldn't pull it together after the first one.
Well, when you got 8 guys show up the one day you have practice before playoff games and stuff, that's semi-pro life right there, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You're lucky
so,
to have
Brez,
8.
take us back, man. Take us back to what got you into football, and we'll go from there, man.
I have a very distinct memory that of what brought me into playing football. I always watched football. I grew up on the south side, McAllister Ave, which for those who don't know, where Brighton and Salina are. I was 2 blocks north of there by Duncan Bright and that whole area. So I grew up there.
In Syracuse.
I can remember being about 7 or 8 years old, and all the bigger kids would be playing football on the street, pole to pole, 2-hand touch.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm watching there. I just watched these guys run up and down and play football. And one day the ball came over to me. I picked it up and I threw it back to the guy. And the kid goes, "Hey, you got a pretty good arm. You should play quarterback." And it was like a light bulb went off. And I said, you know what? I should play quarterback. So basically that's how I decided to be a quarterback. And everything I did after that, kind of revolved around that. It just happened to help that I was, always tall, always had a pretty strong arm, and, always put in the work to try to make myself a better player.
How did you so where did you start at? Was it Kirk Park or did you start at Sherman?
No, Sherman Park. So I played Sherman Park. It's funny, my backfield, I played there 3 years, played junior peewees, did not play quarterback. First time I'd ever played tackle football. Our first scrimmage was against, I think, New Rochelle, and they kicked the shit out of us. And I had just pulling out of the center all the time, and whatever. So they made me a tackle, and it was a tight end and defensive end. So the second year, kind of get a little more balls, play quarterback. I had Andre Pam as one of my running backs. He played at University of Maine and had a little cup of coffee in the league like I did. Theron Chavis, who was another Corcoran alum, incredible athlete, and Craig Adams, who was a top flight basketball player at Janesville DeWitt. So we had an amazing backfield, went on undefeated, killed everybody that year, won in the Dome. That was at the Pee Wee level. I happened to grow like 3 inches over the next year and put on like 25 pounds and couldn't play junior midgets. So I went and played midgets. They made me a tackle and defensive tackle. So prior to getting to court, I was a big ugly in the trenches, just like my boy Hank there.
Yeah.
That's what you get for getting a growth spurt earlier than everybody else.
Yeah, exactly.
That's true. Yeah. But so take it on to Corcoran, man. I know, obviously, I know the times at Corcoran, but give everybody kind of the rundown. And it's funny, we will always bullshit about which team was better, who, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But the realistic is that the guys that came out of that school are just ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I was going to say, just before you guys hit the wire, I played against Corcoran. It's actually the last game I played as a senior, and we actually won that game. Good news for us was Deion Alexander was injured. So we had a little ace in the hole there. Poor guy pulled a hammy, tried to play.
And you were in Fulton, right?
Yes, sir. I graduated 90, so my last season would have been fall of 89.
Yeah. So I was on JV then. I should have been on varsity that year, but for whatever reason they wanted to hold me back. We went undefeated on the JV squad. But so I get to Corcoran and I want to be a quarterback, and everybody's telling me, no, you're not the quarterback that we have here. It's usually somebody that's more athletic, somebody that's faster, runs option, runs this and runs that. We get to the first scrimmage against Fowler, and the offense is doing nothing. This is on the freshman team. They throw me in there second quarter. I go out there, I run a couple of people over, throw a couple of passes that we complete. We go down the field, we score, and all of a sudden, Bresnahan's a quarterback on freshman for the rest of the year. We go undefeated. Like, I didn't lose a game in high school until I got to that game against Henniger my junior year.
Nice.
That very first game, and I didn't start that game. We lost that one 7-0 on a block punt in the end zone with 10 guys on the field. And they were the 9th ranked team in the country at the end of that season.
Yes, they were. Yeah, they were pretty nasty then. Yeah.
Wow. Talk about a team with some studs on it. I mean, you go back to some of those squads. You got the Dorsey Levens, EJ Dowdell, Nottingham teams. You got those Henniger teams with Pookie and those guys, and it just, man, there were some ballers in Syracuse, and it's absolutely amazing to me that only 1 or 2 of them actually ended up at SU.
Yeah, and that's funny you say that, because guys from city schools very rarely will get recruited. I mean, Will Allen was probably and honestly, he had looks everywhere else.
Yeah.
So it was like the fact that he ended up at SU makes everybody like, this is the only guy. But all the talent that is left, this area, it's wild.
I played football in a lot of different places around the country, a lot of different guys, and I look back on the players that we had in high school and kids I grew up with, and those kids were every bit, and even guys that we played in Semi-Pro, they were every bit as talented as guys that I played with at the college level, and even some guys I played with, at the pro level. Talent is talent. I don't care if you're in Florida, Texas, California, New York, New Hampshire, wherever it is. Talent is talent. And there's a lot of talent in Central New York area that is not recruited or not appreciated or not recognized the way that it should be.
Yep. Absolutely.
Why do you think that is, Chris?
A part of it is the media in Syracuse, and I've had this kind of grudge against the Syracuse, the Post Standard since high school, when I was left off the all upstate team. Right. So they picked some schmo from APW as the all upstate first team quarterback. And it was Neil Kerr, I think, was the sports writer at the time.
Yep.
They have their heads so far up Syracuse's ass, and don't, they'll never say anything bad about Syracuse. They'll try not to anyways.
Mm-hmm.
They do not spotlight kids in Syracuse. Nobody knew where I went to college, right? Nobody knew where I went to college. I guarantee you there's not one article in any Syracuse paper about anything that I did in college, right? When you go to other cities, when you go to other towns, especially smaller towns, and Syracuse is a small town.
Yeah.
Kids that go elsewhere to play, whatever sport it is, their exploits get highlighted in their hometown newspapers.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It does not happen in Syracuse. And to me, I think is a travesty. And, it kind of, it doesn't endear people once they leave Syracuse to the town and make them want to come back. I think
once they got to, I know for me, 94, 95, my junior year, they did an article on me and the other guys because we were basically next to SU. We were like the next biggest offensive line in the city.
Yeah.
In the so we'd had an article done. But yeah, I mean, and we're lucky enough that 96 team that I played on at Corcoran, we had 6 guys go Division I.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Wow.
Yeah.
So they couldn't ignore that.
There was when the regime change happened at Corcoran, and a lot of it was due to Leo having all the connections from Cordell getting recruited.
Yep, absolutely.
That just like anything else, right? It's not what you know, it's who you know, and it's not that Will Johnson, Will and Allen, Omari, and Cordell were any better than the guys that we had. They're phenomenal athletes, but the fact that they had all these D1 eyes on them,
right,
brought offers. You can't tell me that Big Rock wasn't a Division I offensive tackle or defensive tackle.
Big kid too. I mean, was he? He was like what, 6'6"?
He's 6'4", 6'5", 265 pounds, and just absolutely shredded. Just a big freaking human being. He could definitely play D tackle or D end at the Division I level. There's, and believe me, I love Cosgrove. He hooked you. He did everything he possibly could. He did exactly what he was supposed to do and get every single guy that could go play in college a scholarship. And I'll always love him for that.
Yeah, I think my sophomore year, he brought us down to Rutgers.
Yep.
And I remember getting in his – this is a true story – getting in his Saturn, right? So you're talking Cordell. So Cordell goes with us, and Cordell played in the NFL and all that, Kenny, if you don't know. And then so there's 3 of us in the back seat. All of us are 6 foot. Me and Hub probably were 300 plus at that point.
Yep.
And the other kid was our tight end. He was 6'5", and he was probably 280. So imagine we're squished in this. And instead of him renting a car, he drives his own.
Yeah.
Squished in
down
this
East
Saturn.
New Jersey.
Oh my God!
Yeah,
like
that's 6 hours easy. 5 hours.
Oh, and you didn't have earpieces and phones and music and this and that. You had what was ever on, and then you were all bullshitting the whole time in the car.
Saturn
I
didn't
can
stand a
imagine what
chance.
that car smelled like when everybody got out.
Oh, it's so bad.
Suspension
it was
shot.
so bad.
Oh boy.
He said that too, and he's like, "I'm gonna have to get a new car." I'm like, "That's your own fault. You should have rented something. That's your fault, man."
Right.
So, Brez, take us into the recruiting process. How you end up at New Hampshire, man?
So I expected more offers than I received. I had 2 offers. One was at UConn, and the other one was at New Hampshire. There was a lot of we sent tapes out to everybody. My dream school was University of Miami. I want to go to Miami. I want to play for Jimmy Johnson. I want to be the next Testaverde, the next this guy, that guy.
Swag. You got to get that swag, brother.
I wanted the swag, and I love their offense. I love the fact that they threw the ball. They were flashy. There was an offense I wanted to play in. I knew I wasn't playing at SU because I couldn't run the option for shit. So I knew that was never, they liked me, whatever, but I was not going to go there.
Yeah.
UConn offered, New Hampshire offered. I go to UConn first. And I'm not sure if you guys have ever been to Storrs, Connecticut, but it's kind of in the middle of nowhere. It's about a half an hour or so outside of Hartford, Connecticut, which is kind of in the middle of nowhere. Gorgeous school, nice school. It went in February maybe or something like that. So, weather wasn't great. Facilities were awesome. They have the Gamble Pavilion, which obviously, the men's and women's basketball teams really kind of funnel a lot of money into that school. Stadium was decent. Weight room was decent. I think it was Mark Didio, who played at Henniger, was an All-American wide receiver for UConn at the time. So I got to hang out with him a little bit. Had a good time there. It was typical recruiting trip. They show you around the campus, and then you go to your host, and you go to parties, and you go to eat and stuff like that. But there was something about the place I just didn't feel – it was no warm and fuzzies, It was about 2 weeks later I go –
UConn then wasn't really known for football at that point yet anyway.
No, they're in the Yankee Conference. They had tied with New Hampshire for the Yankee Conference championship. They were a decent team, but that team was probably the better one that they'd had in quite a while. So it wasn't like they weren't a program. They were, they played football. They were decent. They were middle of the pack in the Yankee Conference all the time. So, there was possibility there if they can get some more players. I go to New Hampshire a couple weeks later, It's in New Hampshire, kind of in the middle of nowhere. I flew into Boston, got picked up. It's an hour and 20 minutes north of Boston. Get on campus. Basically, the entire town of Durham is the University of New Hampshire. It's about 12,500 students at the time, and there's about 10,000 people that live in town. So the whole town is the college, but it's beautiful, absolutely gorgeous area. The seacoast of New Hampshire is amazing. You know, it's a really cool place, typical quintessential New England college. Go through the facilities are just terrible. You know, the weight room is the size of the Corcoran weight room back when I was there. I mean, it's just
small,
tiny, small,
maybe
tiny.
A 15 by 15 room.
Yeah, they got these Nautilus machines that came straight out of pumping iron. You know, that it was left the Gold's Gym in 1975 and ended up at New Hampshire.
Yeah, buddy.
You know, but they hadn't had a losing season in 20 plus years.
Nice.
So there was something about this place automatically that I was like, you know, these guys are blue collar, they're hard workers, they're winners. The coach is no frills. You know, he was one of these guys that, you know, if he wasn't yelling at you, he didn't like you. He'd already given up on you if he wasn't yelling at you. So that was a big draw there, right? I wanted to be challenged. I wanted to be taken to the next level. The center of it, like we go to a party. My host was a fraternity brother. We go to a frat party. And I'm there hanging out, dancing, all this other stuff. And at some point, somebody comes over and starts messing with me. And being from, you know, south side of Syracuse, I'm not going to take it. So we get into a little bit, and there are football players behind me that have my back. They don't know me. I'm just a recruit. You know, for all I know, I could have been messing with, you know, somebody's good friend, but these guys had my back. So I'm like, you know what, that means something to me. I committed on my way to the airport the next day.
You were sold at that point.
I was sold because there was something more there. There's something, you know, there was an unspoken bond and you know, drive that these guys had that brought them together. Facilities are terrible. The stadium is, you know, was at that point was one of the worst in the Yankee Conference. The locker room was pretty bad. They call it the dungeon. So I mean, it was not. There was no frills whatsoever. It's just football and winning, and there was something that really brought me, you know, that attracted me to that.
Yeah, I don't think there's any of those kind of places now anywhere in the country. You know what I mean? Every place has, you know, 3-4 uniform options. They all have, you know, even the smallest, crappiest schools are, you know, set up like, you know, mini D1s now. You know what I mean?
Yep, absolutely. I mean, New Hampshire is a real program now. When Coach McDonald got there in '99, he took over from Coach Bowes. Coach Mack was the OC, took over as head coach. Chip Kelly became the OC at that point, '99. They go on this tear of 16 straight, you know, playoff appearances and all this stuff, and they become a real program. They brand new stadium, the locker room's fantastic. I mean, that transformed that program. You know, they've got a contract with Nike there. Funny story. The very first game I started in college, I didn't take a snap for 3 years. We played Connecticut my redshirt junior year, and I wore these Nike cleats, these Nike Air cleats, nice and light, comfortable as hell. I rushed for like 90 yards in that game. We ended up losing. We got a kickoff. We got a field goal off in the last second that they said was no good because time expired. That went through carried off the upright and went through. They waved it off, or else we would have won the game.
Oh, Jesus!
I wore those cleats. I was like, you know, these freaking things are awesome. Well, we had signed a contract with Reebok. Reebok's cleats were shit at the time.
Heavy as hell.
Yeah, that the Reebok rep was at our game, and went to the program and said, "You guys had like 30 guys out there with non-Reebok cleats. We're going to pull your contract if these guys aren't in our Reebok cleats."
That's funny.
The next game was at home against Rhode Island, and I tried to get away. I wore my Reeboks in warm-ups, and then tried to spat at my my Nikes. And Coach Mack was like, "You go in the locker room, you get those fucking Nike cleats off. You put your Reeboks on right now." It just totally it just got me so off my game. You know, we ended up losing like 13-7, which wasn't great.
Oh my God, dude! But you know what though? That's the reality of it. I mean,
Yeah.
Reebok back in the day, those cleats were not good. I mean, I remember
No.
I had a pair. I had in high school. My first pair of cleats I had was the pump, the Reebok pump cleats.
They
I
weigh
had
about 3
those.
pounds each.
Oh my God, they were so heavy. Then again, I'm not very fast anyway. We all know that. So
You're not.
But oh God, no, I'm not. We know that. Still not fast to this day.
Nobody's mistaking Jamie for Usain Bolt. That's for sure.
No, nope. That is absolutely 100% fact. But yeah, it's crazy, man. So you get your years in at New Hampshire, and then
So you were a 2-year starter, Chris, right? You were a redshirt junior, started that season,
22 games. Senior. Yeah, we were 0-3 to start out my redshirt junior year, and then we went 6-2 the rest of that year, and then the next year we went 8-3. So over my last 17 games or 19 games was 14-5. 14.
Yeah, you start to develop. You get in a rhythm.
It's a good run.
Yeah. You know, it was one of those things too. I can remember going through that season, getting those snaps was, that, and after I left New Hampshire, I saw Donovan McNabb downtown, and he was still at Syracuse at the time. And I'd known him from being up at SU a little bit and whatever. So I went over to him and we were chatting. I said, listen, and it was at that point, it was a debate of whether he was going to come out or stay at school for his last year. I said, Donovan, I can tell you, you cannot replace those snaps that you're going to get in college.
Yeah.
Every time you take the ball from center, you're going to learn something. And these, 1,200 plays this year or whatever it is that you're going to get in, every one of those is going to make you a better quarterback. You have nothing to lose by staying here and everything to gain. I don't think that was the deciding factor of him staying at Syracuse, but, I truly believe that, especially from this position, you have to have that experience in those reps, see the defenses, make the checks, and it's invaluable.
So you would recommend just about anybody at that position to stay, unless it's like a surefire, no doubt. What about like Trevor Lawrence next year? I mean, he played his first game and they said that dude's NFL ready. His first college game as a true freshman, right? So what would you say to
that's
Trevor?
Ridiculous. That's absolutely ridiculous to say, guys, NFL ready, even after one full season of playing the position. He's not NFL ready. Physically, he might be. Mentally, he's going to be pretty good. You can see it. His progression. It wasn't like he went through 13 games or 14 games and stopped and didn't get any better. He's gotten better as a quarterback. But your maturity, you grow as a leader. And now think about how much more they can do with him now that foundation is there.
Mm-hmm.
A lot. And as long as he applies himself, they're going to be that much better. He's going to be that much better.
Wasn't it Peyton that actually stayed an extra year? Wasn't Peyton the one that was on the fence and he said, no, I'm staying?
Yep. Peyton was there for 4 years. He was one of those first guys that was like, because he was a great prospect, but there are a lot of people that said, he's too stiff. His feet are too jittery in the pocket. His motion isn't great. He can't get out of his own way. He had a lot of naysayers coming out of college. And I, being freshly out of college and out of the NFL at that point, it was him and Ryan Leaf. And I was like, I think Ryan Leaf actually might be a better player than Peyton Manning. Obviously, I was completely wrong in that.
Right.
Well, at the time,
everybody was. You weren't alone on that one, Brez.
Yeah.
You weren't alone.
Yeah, the Chargers were really wrong.
Quarterback. Yeah. I mean, he was definitely the better quarterback, though. I mean, if you look at what they did in college, he took nobody knew who the hell Washington State was, and all of a sudden, there's somebody. You know what I mean?
And you got this big stud out there slinging the rock all around the yard and, with an attitude and everything else. And Peyton was this guy, wasn't cocky. You look at these two guys on paper and on film and you say, there might be a little more upside with this guy over here versus, this Manning guy.
Peyton was kind of like, he almost took the approach of his coach, Phil, was it Vollmer, right? Like they were like that. They were no frill guys. They just kind of were monotone. You know what I mean? There was no excitement ever on the sideline with any of, you know what I mean?
Yep.
They just played ball, you know?
Yep. And I think his father was like that too. I mean, you can't deny the pedigree is there, you know.
Yeah.
And there was that can't remember if it was ESPN Plus or somebody had a whole expose on the Mannings, right? And how they were raised, and you know, the pedigree has a lot to do with it. It's like coach's son, right? There's like this ingrained thing that's like get driven into them just by osmosis of being around it all the time, that puts you a little bit ahead of your peers that don't get that exposure,
especially that position, right? I mean, Dad played, Dad coached, you know, so they definitely not only did they have, obviously they had to have the DNA, but they also had the mentality, because they were, you know, the day they were born, he's preaching to them, right? So
when I played semi-pro, the philosophy that I tried to take to the field and with my offense was based on Peyton Manning, especially in his Indy days. You know, Jamie, you might remember this. You know, I wanted to go Indy. You know, that told us we were going to the line. I'm calling stuff at the line. You know, and it's difficult to do a semi-pro because not everybody's in practice.
He called that though, Kenny, and we'll get to it. But he never did it. Like we barely ever did that in a game, and we would have ran through everybody at that point because we were ready for it,
right?
And we were actually in shape for it too. You know what I mean?
We would have had. And here's the thing about offensive football: you need 11 guys all knowing what the hell they're doing. You know, when you're playing semi-pro and you're practicing for 2 hours, 1 day a week, and you have 6 offensive starters there, you can't do that. You can't.
You're right.
You can't do any higher level math. You got to keep it 1 + 1 = 2.
Right.
You know, and that was it. You know, in Hantke can attest to this. And Kenny, you were there for a little bit. You were there with the Vipers when I was battling with Fiacchi all the time to call my own plays.
I remember that.
And I had an idea how the offense should have been run. He had an idea, and we freaking butted heads a lot.
Right.
We had the same, you know, Johnson and I had a little bit of the same, you know, process, but I called the majority of my own plays.
Yep.
What I did was mine, and I put some of these higher level, maybe not, you know, not calculus, but I put a little algebra in there for these guys. You know, I said, okay, here's the route concept, and you do what I tell you to do. And I'm going to call a play, and I want you to be covered. Like, I'm calling this play, and I want you to do this so you are covered. And the reason why is because you being covered makes this guy open.
It's funny you say that, because I started when I started coaching, I did a lot of research, and I was actually looking into New England's playbook, and you can download their playbooks, older playbooks. So I downloaded one of theirs, and a lot of my passing game came off of their concepts. But like you were saying, it's when you tell a receiver, run this exact route and you're going to be covered, it pisses them off.
Oh, yeah.
And it was like, absolutely. I'm like, no, dude, you don't understand. Yep. You need to run it exactly that way, because this guy, there's only 2 things this guy can do. If he's coached, he's going to do exactly what we want him to do. If he's just a wildfire, he's not. So
it's called an object receiver read, right? So if I tell you to go up 5 yards and turn around and just stay there, that linebacker on you, if you're in a slot, that linebacker has 2 things to do. He can either drop off and you're open, I'm going to hit you right away, or he's going to suction onto you, and what happens is it opens up a void behind him. And that's where I'm throwing the ball. That's one of my favorite route combinations was stop and then a read behind it.
Yep.
So you open up that hook curl zone to those reads by occupying those linebackers covering the slots. And then your only option as that 5-yard stop is to sit 1,000, 1,002, and then drift out to make the window wider. You know,
and that was. I mean, I want to say we that was the pass play for 90% of the entire time we played. You know, we went to the national title. But,
yeah.
Well, that and Stevie Scott, right? Stevie Scott go deep, because I remember coaching against you, Chris, and I think it was the first play of the game. You guys sent Stevie Scott on a 9. And I was like,
all you had to do,
this is going to be a long day. Oh, my God.
Listen,
if you watch his –
play to your strengths.
Yeah, right. If you watch his kid play at Indiana, let me tell you, Stevie – and I loved Stevie Jr. Stevie Jr. is great, but his dad was just ridiculous. You know what I mean?
His dad was one of those otherworldly athletes. I mean, I can remember watching him work out, and the dude he was like – Dion was the same way. Dion did not touch a weight in high school. And if he did, it was only to show off.
Yep.
You know, guys would be in there, throw 225 on there, big norms, you know, throwing 225 around there, whatever. And Dion will roll in the weight room. Man, get on there, no warm up. Boom, 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 boom. Just knock out 225 like it was a freaking piece of paper he's throwing around.
Yeah.
Stevie was the same way. I mean, this dude,
complete freak.
It just blows my mind.
I remember the first day I practiced with him. First day I practiced with him. I didn't know you guys yet. So I hop on the field and he starts talking and he talks really fast. He talks as fast as he runs. So I'm sitting there and I'd played previously with Marty Clanton. So Marty played translator for me. He basically said, dude, he told you to hook his guy. He's running a reverse. He'll be gone. And I'm just like, okay, we can do that.
That's all I do.
That kid was a freak. So one thing we need to do real quick, Chris, we got about 5 minutes left.
Yep.
Number one, we'd love to have you back when you got time because
certainly
we can't handle everything you've done in your football career in 40 minutes. So just real quick, you went to the Patriots. You were in camp for how long? Weren't you like one of the last guys cut?
Yeah, it was the second to last cuts. I was there for 2 preseason games. The Super Bowl repeat game up in Green Bay, which is probably the highlight of me being with the Patriots, was walking out of the tunnel at Lambeau Field for the first preseason game, and there's 75,000 people there. Nice. Just that atmosphere, you know, basically the cradle of football was absolutely amazing. On the other side of the field is Reggie White, Brett Favre, Dorsey Levens, you know, that whole squad that they had over there that just, you know, kicked the crap out of New England in the Super Bowl. You know, that was an amazing otherworldly experience. Funny about the next day in the Boston Globe front page of the sports section is a picture prior to the game, and it's Drew, myself, Dave Wollabaugh, who's a center, Todd Rucci, who's a guard, Tony Gator played wide receiver, and there's me on the end of the bench. And as they're going through naming the players, my name was Rich Bresnahan. So I've got that, you know, in like you know, it's kind of framed a little bit, and it's Rich Bresnahan.
Rich, Chris,
that was your moment of fame, buddy.
It's all the same.
That was your 5 minutes, pal.
Well, I was 4th string. I didn't deserve to have my name, you know, called out right in that.
So you went from your stay in New England, and then next meetings we'll get into you know, a little more of your arena career, because I know you spent some time down in Florida. But so just kind of walk us from you get let go by New England, you get picked up in arena, right? And then you, so go ahead and tell us that little transaction.
So I was cut by the Patriots, and I did have a tryout with the Jacksonville Jaguars, who coincidentally were the team that I thought I was going to be signed by or drafted by after the draft. I got signed by New England as soon as the draft ended. Basically, I got the call, "Hey, New England wants you." They call priority free agent. Prior to that, though, Jacksonville had called and said, "Hey, we got 2 picks left. We may pick you with one of those. If not, we want you as a free agent." I was like, "Okay, great. I'm going to Jacksonville." That doesn't happen. My agent calls me and says, "New England stepped up. They're offering you this, prior to free agent." I was like, "Okay, great. I'm going to New England." That was the year Mark Brunell blew his knee out in the preseason. Oh. Rob Johnson tears his ankle up in like the 2nd game of the year. The 3rd game of the year, they have a rookie, you know, free agent quarterback starting for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
And his name wasn't Chris Bresnahan.
It was not Chris Bresnahan.
Damn it.
So they fly me down there after all this happens for a workout, and I'd gotten back to Syracuse, which was not probably the best place to go. I should have gone to New Hampshire and worked out there. But I ended up, you know, went back down, did not have a great workout. Regardless of that, the night I get there, they had signed Jim Miller, who had just been cut by the Steelers at the time, to come in and be their quarterback.
Shit.
You know, obviously Jim Miller, NFL radio, Jim and Pat.
Yep.
Moving the chains. Yep.
So listen, we got to wrap this up, Chris. You know, it's great having you here. Just one thing, I'm gonna say this. I know we only played a season together, but of all the players I played with, I think you left the biggest impression on me as far as how to take that level of football, because you've been around, right? So at least I respected where you came from. And then you and I have kept in conversation since then, whether it was, I bumped into you at the BMW dealership while you were working there, or whether it's, and when it comes to respecting football, if I want an opinion, I reach out to Chris on his Facebook and I'll say, what do you think, Chris? And, so
be happy you didn't play for him for more than 1 year.
He would hate you that. I would hate him. I would hate him instead of respect him. No, that's so I just.
No, you wouldn't hate. I mean, listen, we went at it so many times on the sideline, but it's only because we both are into the game.
Yep.
And obviously I'm a lineman. Let's run. Chris is going to drop back and throw. And at the end of the day, we won. We won a shit ton of games together.
A lot of games.
Absolutely.
And we always had the number one offense, regardless of what team I was on. We were always number one offense. It was. I wanted to throw the ball 60% of the time and run it 40% of the time. Jamie thinks we threw it 70% of the time and ran it 30.
Oh, easy.
We're actually 50-50. If I go
still
back
to this day, it was 70-30.
50-50.
It was 70-30. Still to this day.
That's hilarious. That doesn't change. He bitched at me a lot on the sideline about the same thing. So
but see, I was good when we played though, Kenny. I played guard, so I was good in a kick slide.
That's right.
Playing center's a little different ball game when you're you have to snap the ball 1,000 times because, freaking Christ.
Right.
That's why I was like, can we just go shotgun, please? And I'll just snap you the ball.
I was happy with that.
Yeah, I know.
Awesome. Well, hate to wrap this up, Chris. Love chatting with you. So we're gonna call it a day, but again, we're gonna have you back. We'll you and I'll talk offline, and we'll expand more on your arena career, and then we'll share some more war stories about Syracuse days on the Semi-Pro. And we appreciate you being here, and have a great weekend, and we look forward to chatting with you again.
Thanks, guys. You guys too.
All right, buddy. Be good.
Appreciate it.
Bye, brother.
See you. Man, I love that Chris got on with us today. Like I had said to him, the respect I have for him, for what he taught me, even though we only played a season together. He's a great dude. He knows football inside and out. He's seen what it takes to play at each level. He's been successful at levels that most guys just wish they could. And, I look forward to, having him on in the future and really expanding on the rest of his career, because the dude's got a lot of stories to share with us, a lot of them.
Well, I think what it comes down to is with him and with us. And I think as you get older, that's when the game slows down and you kind of understand the game a little bit more. You know what I mean? And you put a little bit more time in, and Chris has put time in at every level. So
I think what I took out of today's conversation is I think it's for anyone who's listening to this, that maybe you're a high school kid going to college, or you're a college kid, thinking about if you have an opportunity to take snaps as a quarterback, take them. If you need to play for a community college, or you need to play for a junior college,
do it.
Or you need to play semi-pro to get some snaps in.
Yep.
Because, like Chris said, I never played quarterback, but I'll tell you this, as a head coach and even as offense coordinator, I always stood behind my quarterback. I learned more with every snap that they took. I could sit back and I could watch, and I would start scanning the whole field. And the more I talked to them and see what they saw versus what I saw, so right. I would say, what I took out of today's conversation with Chris is that, if you have an opportunity to take snaps, take snaps.
Yeah, absolutely.
Don't be too proud to take opportunities to take snaps.
The game is very easy, but it's a lot easier the longer you play, the more time you put in. You can be an amazing athlete, but at the end of the day, the more you understand, and that makes you just that much more dangerous. So in any level.
Don't let Chris fool you. He said that he wasn't an option quarterback, and I watched him Jim Kelly people. Okay.
Yeah, I watched him. He wasn't an option quarterback.
No, he wasn't, but I watched him run dudes over.
Oh yeah. Yeah. He's a drop back.
That's why I say Jim Kelly. Jim Kelly was like a linebacker playing quarterback, right? So, that's kind of what Chris reminded me of. He's a big dude. He didn't shy away from contact.
Yep.
So, great guy to have.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to get into it more with him, man. There's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of more of that fruit to dive into for sure. So, but dude, great show. This was episode 3. We're excited that we're getting some interesting characters on here. The last 2 weeks we got a guy out of Colorado. We got Chris grew up in Syracuse. He now lives in PA. So, we're expanding. Future meetings. We've got people from, let's see, we got a couple guys out of Florida already scheduled. We've got a guy to Chicago already scheduled. So we're hitting the country. Hopefully one day we can proudly say we hit all 50 states. So if you're in Alaska or you're in Hawaii,
look at you. I don't think anybody's in Alaska.
Come on out here. Hey, they play football everywhere, baby. They play it everywhere.
You're right. You're right.
But future guests coming up that we've already scheduled. We've got Chris being one, but we got another gentleman who spent some time in the NFL. He's also written a book, and he's also in the process of a movie. He's got a movie deal that was set to start casting until the coronavirus decided to change plans.
Shut everything down. Yeah. Shut down life, damn it.
I spoke with him yesterday, and he's got they've got like a $30 million budget. It's going to be filmed in Central New York, where he came from. He came from Eastern New York, but it's going to be filmed in upstate New York. So he's got a movie in the making. And then I've got 2 owners scheduled. One's a Florida owner, one's a New York owner. I also got a guy next week who played left tackle for me. He's a solid dude, and he's even bigger now because he's going for his pro card as a bodybuilder.
All right.
This dude's a monster.
Okay.
This dude's a monster.
All right.
And if anyone's got any questions on how to train, give us some questions down however we do this, whether it's below or whether you email us at Semi-Pro Gridiron Rant at iCloud.
He's old, guys.
You have to understand,
he's a little old.
I tried to do the shorter stuff. Is it
at gmail.com?
No, I wish. It's at iCloud.com. So Semi-Pro
iCloud.
Gridiron Rant at iCloud.com.
All right.
I'm an Apple guy. What can I say?
I know,
so we've got a lot of stuff lined up for the future, man. So we're booked through June. We are going to take July 4th weekend off. God rested on the 7th day, so we're going to rest on the 7th week. So we're going to take a little break, have a long weekend there. But other than that, again, if you're a coach, you're a commissioner, you're a player, you're a cheerleader, you're a water boy, you're anybody that's involved in semi-pro, and you want to get your team name out there, you want to get your name out there, you want to get a rant going.
Yep.
Send us an email.
Here's the deal. Next week, I challenge you, okay, to come up with your worst story from the first year that you played football. Okay.
That's almost too easy, bro. It's almost too easy.
Semi-pro football.
Yeah, because
I know it is. I know.
You remember what my rookie year was, right?
No. Hold it.
Okay.
Eat it.
Okay.
Put it on paper.
Folks,
we'll talk about it next week.
Folks, you're not going to want to miss that one. All I'm going to say is 1993, lights out. That's all I'm going to say.
Easy.
All I'm going to say. 1993, lights out. That's our little teaser. Okay. And that's what's next in stores for next week.
There it is. We're going to wrap it up right there.
Yep. So we're going to wrap it up with that. So listen, again, we're going to want you to tackle that subscription bar, and we want you to stiff arm that bell so you can get our notices when we drop our next video. So other than that, we definitely appreciate you watching, and we look forward to episode 4. Great week, Hantke.
Done.
All right, buddy.
Put in the books.
We'll see you later.
Bye, everybody.